She didn't come into my life loudly. No. Lena knew better than that. She came in smiling. Soft voice. Perfect timing. Always just helpful enough to seem harmless, and just invasive enough to feel wrong. My husband called her protective. I called her a problem. I just didn't know how dangerous she was yet. The first time I noticed it was something small. It was a Saturday morning. I was in the kitchen, still half asleep, wearing one of Daniel's oversized shirts, making coffee with our new espresso machine, the one he surprised me with from Breville after I landed my promotion. Lena walked in like she lived there. No knocking. No hesitation. Just ownership. She glanced at me, then at the machine. "You're using that wrong?" she said, already reaching for it. I smiled politely. "I've been using it for a week." She ignored that, adjusted the settings, wiped the counter like I hadn't cleaned it, then said, casually, "Daniel likes it stronger." Not "you're doing it wrong." Not "let me show you." Just, "I know him better." That was the first move. Not aggressive. Just placement. Establishing position. It didn't stop there. She started showing up more. Unannounced. Uninvited. Unapologetic. She rearranged things in my house like she was restoring something that had been disturbed. My pantry. My closet. Even the way Daniel's suits were hung, she switched them from left-facing to right-facing like it mattered. Like she mattered more. And Daniel? He laughed it off. "She's always been like that." He told me one night while scrolling through his iPhone 15 Pro. "She just cares." Cares. That word. That dangerous, convenient word. "She went through a lot growing up," he added. "She just holds on to people." I stared at him. "No," I said quietly. "She doesn't hold on. She takes over." He didn't answer. That was his pattern. Silence. When truth got uncomfortable. The real problem started 2 weeks later. At dinner, we were at a high-end restaurant downtown, one of those places where the lighting is low. The plates are art. And everyone pretends not to look at each other's tables. Daniel had invited Lena. Of course he had. She arrived in a fitted black dress, heels sharp enough to cut glass, carrying a Louis Vuitton clutch like she was stepping into a photo shoot. She hugged him first, then looked at me. Smile. Measured. Polite. Empty. Dinner was fine. At first, until the conversation shifted. "So," Lena said, swirling her wine, "how's your job going?" I smiled. "Good. I just got promoted." "Oh?" She tilted her head. "Already?" "Already." That word again. I nodded. "I've been leading the project for 6 months." She let out a soft laugh. "Wow. That's fast." Then she turned to Daniel. "Remember when you said they were struggling to find someone experienced enough for that role? There it was. Clean. Sharp. Public. A compliment." Twisted into doubt. Daniel hesitated. Just for a second. But I saw it. That tiny crack? That hesitation she planted. "I earned it," I said calmly. Lena smiled wider. "I'm sure you did." But her eyes said something else. Something colder. Something final. That night. In the car. Daniel was quiet. Too quiet. "You didn't have to get defensive," he finally said. I turned to him slowly. "I didn't. She was just asking questions." "No," I said. "She was planting them." He sighed. "You're overthinking." That was the moment I realized something. This wasn't about Lena anymore. This was about influence. And she already had it. The next morning, I found something that changed everything. My laptop was open. I always closed it. Always. At first, I thought I forgot. Then I saw the cursor blinking. On a file I hadn't opened in days. A confidential proposal. Company level. Not something anyone outside should even know existed. My stomach dropped. I walked into the living room. Daniel wasn't home. But Lena's scarf was draped casually over the back of my chair. Like a signature. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just crossing boundaries. She was testing them. And I had just passed her first test. By staying quiet, I picked up my phone, opened my notes, and wrote one sentence. If she wants to play inside my life, I'll let her. Then I added another. But she won't control how it ends. I didn't confront her. I didn't argue. I didn't even mention the laptop, because by then, I understood something Lena didn't. The most dangerous mistake you can make is thinking the quiet person doesn't see you. And I saw everything. What she didn't know was that she had just stepped into a game she didn't understand. And I had already decided I wasn't going to fight her. I was going to let her destroy herself. And when it happened, no one would be able to save her. Not even Daniel. Not this time. I didn't confront her. That was the first rule. No reactions. No accusation. No visible defense. Because people like Lena didn't win by being right. They won by making you look wrong. So I watched. And I waited. It didn't take long for her next move. 3 days later, Daniel came home late. Later than usual. No message. No call. Just silence. Followed by the sound of his keys hitting the marble counter, like something inside him had already decided a fight was coming. You didn't answer my texts, I said, keeping my voice even. I was busy. Short. Flat. Distant. With what? He hesitated. Just long enough. Work. That was new. Daniel never hesitated with me before. Not like that. I nodded slowly. Okay. And that was it. No argument. No pressure. Because the moment you chase the truth, you've already lost control of it. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was emotional, but because I was calculating. At deux tretin aim. His phone lit up on the nightstand. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. The screen was bright enough. Lena. Did you talk to her? I closed my eyes and smiled. So that's how she was doing it. Not directly. Never directly. She wasn't attacking me. She was managing him. The next morning, I made breakfast. Pancakes. Coffee. Normal. Predictable. Daniel sat across from me, scrolling through his iPhone. Avoiding eye contact like guilt had already made itself comfortable. I might have to travel next week, he said. I poured syrup slowly. Where? New York. For what? Meeting. I looked up at him, and for the first time, I didn't see my husband. I saw someone repeating a script. Lena's going too? I asked. He froze. Just for a second, but it was enough. Yeah. There it was. Not hidden. Not even denied. Since when does your sister attend your business meetings? I asked calmly. She's helping with something. What exactly? He sighed. Annoyed now. Why does everything have to be a problem? I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was perfect. That was her influence. Turn the questioner into the problem. I didn't say it was a problem. I said softly. I asked a question. He stood up. Conversation over. That was the moment I knew. She had moved to phase 2. Isolation. Make him pull away. Make him doubt. Make him tired of explaining. Because once someone is tired enough, they stop defending you. And once that happens, you're already alone. That afternoon, I did something different. I went to the office. Not mine. His? I walked in wearing a tailored blazer. Heels sharp. Calm face, the version of me Lena underestimated. The receptionist smiled. Hey. Can I help you? I'm here to see Daniel. She checked the system, then hesitated. He's not in today? I tilted my head. Really? Because I knew he was. I had already seen the building access logs. Maybe he stepped out? She added quickly. I smiled. Maybe. Then I turned and walked straight past her. Confidence is a key. Most people don't question. The elevator ride was quiet, but my mind wasn't, because I already knew what I was going to find. And when the doors opened, I saw her. Lena. Standing inside the glass conference room. Talking. Laughing. Leading. Like she belonged there. And Daniel? He wasn't leading the meeting. He was watching her. That was the moment everything became clear. This was never about family. She wasn't trying to be close. She was trying to be essential. And she was winning. I didn't walk in. I didn't interrupt. I stood there, just long enough to let the truth settle. Then I turned around and left, because I didn't need confrontation. I needed leverage. That night, I did something Lena would never expect. I called her. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey," she said sweetly. Too sweet. "I think we got off on the wrong foot." I said, "Silence. A flicker." "Oh? I want us to be close." I continued. "I mean, we're family." Another pause. Longer this time? Because predators don't expect invitations. That would be nice. She said finally. "Careful now. Suspicious." I was thinking. I added. "Maybe dinner this weekend? Just us?" That did it. Now she was curious. Now she was engaged. "I'd like that," she said. I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. "Great," I said softly. "I'll plan something special." After I hung up, I opened my laptop, the same one she had touched, and this time, I didn't close it. Instead, I created a new file. Title: Draft Acquisition Strategy. But inside, it wasn't a strategy. It was a story. A carefully designed version of reality, one that would look real enough, tempting enough, important enough, for someone like Lena to take. And the moment she did, she wouldn't just be crossing a line. She'd be stepping into a trap, and this time, I wouldn't stop her. Because the fastest way to expose someone like Lena is to let them believe they're winning, and she was about to believe it completely. What she didn't know was that I had already started deciding exactly how she would fall. I didn't rush it. That was the second rule. If you move too fast, people like Lena get cautious. If you move too slow, they get comfortable, and comfort makes them careless. So I gave her exactly what she wanted. Access. The file stayed open. Every night, every morning. Always there. Visible. Unprotected. Not too obvious. Just available. Inside it, I built something believable. Names. Numbers. Acquisition targets. Even a fake internal note referencing a potential partnership with Nike, something big enough to matter. Vague enough to look confidential. Because Lena didn't just want attention. She wanted importance. And nothing makes someone feel important faster than knowing something they shouldn't. 3 days passed. Nothing. 4 days. Still nothing. Then on the 5th night, it happened. Daniel was in the shower. I was in the bedroom, sitting quietly with a book I hadn't turned a page of in 10 minutes. And then, a sound. Quick. The kind of sound you only notice when you're waiting for it. The office door. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Seconds passed. Then a shadow shifted under the hallway light. Lena. Of course it was her. I counted. 1, 2, 3. 10 minutes. Then the door opened again. Footsteps. Light. Careful. And then silence. I closed my eyes. Not out of fear, but out of certainty. She took it. The next morning, I made coffee. Some routine. Some calm. Daniel kissed my cheek. Too quickly, too distracted. "I'll be late tonight," he said. "I have a meeting." I nodded. "Of course you do." Because now I knew exactly what that meant. By noon, the first confirmation came, an email. From someone I trusted. Subject line: "Is this real?" Attached: a document. My document. But not from my laptop. From Lena. I leaned back in my chair. And smiled. She didn't just take the bait. She used it. That was even better. Because now, she was invested. And people who are invested make bigger mistakes. I didn't respond immediately. I let it sit. Let it breathe. Let it spread just enough. Because panic only works when it arrives late. That night was the dinner. The one I invited her to. I chose the place carefully. Private room. Soft lighting. The kind of restaurant where people whisper, even when they don't need to. I wore something simple. Elegant. A silk dress. Nothing loud. Nothing aggressive. Because I didn't need to impress her. I needed to disarm her. She arrived exactly on time. Of course she did. Hair perfect. Makeup flawless. Confidence high. And in her hand, that same Louis Vuitton clutch. She hugged me. Light. Controlled. You look beautiful, she said. I try. I replied. Visat? Wine was poured. Silence settled between us. Not awkward. Measured. I'm glad you called me, she said finally. I've been wanting us to be closer. I smiled. So have I. Lee. But a useful one. Dinner started slow. Safe topics. Neutral ground. Then she leaned in slightly. Just enough. You've been busy lately, she said. There it was. I tilted my head. Have I? She smiled. I heard you're working on something big. I didn't react. Not even a blink. Daniel mentioned it. She added casually. Of course he did. Or at least, that's what she wanted me to believe. I took a sip of wine. Set the glass down slowly. Interesting, I said. She watched me carefully now, looking for cracks. But I gave her none. Instead, I leaned forward, just slightly. You know, I said softly. You've always been very involved. Her smile didn't move, but her eyes sharpened. I just care about my brother. No, I said, still calm, still steady. You care about control? That landed. Not loud, not explosive, just precise. For the first time that night, she didn't speak immediately. And that was all I needed to see. Because predators don't pause. Unless they feel something shift. She recovered quickly. Of course she did. I think you're misunderstanding me, she said smoothly. I don't think I am. Silence again. Then she leaned back. Relaxed. Confident. Because in her mind, she still had the advantage. She had the document. She had the information. She thought she had leverage. And that's when I knew. It was time. Not to expose her. Not yet. But to push her. Just a little further. I hope you're careful, I said softly. With what? With things that don't belong to you? Her eyes flickered. Just for a fraction of a second. Then she smiled. I don't know what you mean. Of course you don't. I stood up slowly. Dinner was nice, I said. And then I walked away. No accusation. No scene. No proof. Because the worst fear is the one that isn't confirmed. And now, she wasn't just confident anymore. She was uncertain. And uncertainty makes people reckless. That night, I got the second confirmation. The fake acquisition deal had been forwarded. Not just once, but to multiple people, including someone who should never have seen it. And that was the moment everything locked into place. She didn't just steal information. She exposed herself. Publicly. And now, all I had to do was let it unfold. Because Lena wasn't careful. She was ambitious. And ambition is the easiest thing in the world to weaponize, especially when someone believes they're smarter than you. She thought she was playing me, but she didn't realize she had already played herself. And this time, there would be no way out. The moment someone makes a mistake, you don't stop them. You make sure they keep going. That was the third rule. By the time Lena forwarded the document, it was already too late for her. She just didn't know it yet. The next morning, Daniel didn't look at me. Not once. He grabbed his keys, checked his watch, scrolled through his iPhone, like there was something on that screen he needed more than the truth sitting right in front of him. I might be late again, he said. I nodded. Of course. No questions. No tension. Because pressure only works when you apply it at the right time. And this wasn't the time. But I could see it. The shift? He was already choosing distance. Already leaning away. Already letting her voice get louder than mine. That used to hurt. Now, it just made things easier. By noon, everything started moving. The email chain had grown faster than I expected. People asking questions. People forwarding. People trying to verify something that wasn't real. And right in the center of it was Lena. Not hiding. Not careful. Leading. That was her mistake. She didn't just take information. She tried to own it. Which meant she left a trail. I closed my laptop slowly. Took a breath. Then I made the call. Hey, I said when the line connected. I need you to join a meeting this afternoon. A pause. Then, about what? about something that's already out of control. Another pause. Longer this time. I'll be there. Of course you will. Because people like Lena never walk away from power. The meeting wasn't official. Not yet. Just a discussion. But the room I chose said everything. Glass walls. Long table. Neutral space. The kind of place where truth doesn't hide well. I arrived early. Laptop open. Files ready. Not the fake one. The real one. Because when the moment came, I wasn't going to argue. I was going to show. The door opened. Lena walked in first. Confident. Untouched. She wore a tailored blazer today. Minimal jewelry. Controlled image. Not family. Professional. She had already stepped into a role that didn't belong to her, and she looked comfortable in it. Daniel came in right behind her. His eyes went straight to me. Then to the screen. Then away. Avoidance again. Predictable. Can someone explain what's going on? He asked. I didn't answer. Not yet. Because timing matters, and this wasn't his moment. It was hers. I looked at Lena. She met my gaze. Didn't flinch. Of course she didn't. She still believed she was in control. I think you should. I said calmly. Silence. A flicker. Then she smiled. What exactly do you want me to explain? There it was. Confidence. Not denial. Control. I received a document this morning. I said. An internal acquisition strategy. Daniel frowned. What document? I didn't look at him. I'd like to understand how it left my system. That word landed. System. Because this wasn't personal anymore. This was structural. Lena leaned back slightly. Relaxed. Maybe your system isn't as secure as you think. Good. Very good. That's exactly what I wanted her to say. I nodded slowly. Maybe. Then I turned the laptop toward her. Then you won't mind explaining this. On the screen. An email thread. Her name. Her account. Her timestamp. Her forwarding the document to multiple external contacts, including one competitor firm. The room shifted. You could feel it. That quiet moment. When reality catches up with confidence. Daniel leaned forward. What is this? Lena didn't answer immediately. Because for the first time, she didn't have a clean move. It looks like someone is trying to set me up, she said finally. There it was. The pivot. Blame. Expected. I nodded. That's possible. Her eyes narrowed slightly. She wasn't expecting agreement. But there's something interesting. I continued. I clicked. Another screen. Security logs. Time-stamped. Access records. Whoever accessed that file? I said softly. Did it from my laptop? Daniel turned to me. What? I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes on her. Late at night. I continued. When I wasn't in the room. Silence. And the only person in the house at that time. I let the sentence hang. Not finished. Not needed. Because everyone in that room already knew how it ended. Lena's jaw tightened. Just slightly. But it was enough. You're accusing me? She said. No panic. Not yet. Still trying to hold control. I'm asking you. I said calmly. Were you in my office that night? Pause. 1 second. Toi. I might have walked in. She said. Daniel told me I could. There. That was it. The crack. Daniel turned to her sharply. I never said that. And just like that, the ground shifted. Not because I exposed her, but because she exposed herself. That was always the plan. I didn't interrupt. Didn't push. Because when people start falling, the worst thing you can do is catch them too early. So I stayed quiet and let gravity do the rest. Because Lena didn't realize it yet, but she had already lost control of the room. And once that happens, everything else is just a matter of time. There's a moment, right after someone gets exposed, but before they fully fall. That moment is the most dangerous because they don't panic yet. They don't break. They adapt. And Lena, she adapted fast. I didn't send anything to competitors, she said. Voice steady now. Too steady. She had already recovered. Already rebuilt her posture. Already stepped back into control. I forwarded a draft, Daniel mentioned. She continued, turning slightly toward him. Something he said your company was exploring. There it was. The pivot. Not denial. Redirection. Daniel frowned. I never. He stopped. Because doubt had already been planted. Weeks ago. By her. And now it was growing. You told me you were working on expansion? Lena added softly. I assumed it was related. Assumed. Such a clean word. Such a dangerous one. I watched him. His shoulders tightened. His jaw flexed. He wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at me. And for the first time, there was something new in his eyes. Not trust. Not yet. But uncertainty. And uncertainty is where everything begins to shift. I never authorized you to access anything from her system, he said finally. Good. That was the first crack. Lena didn't react immediately. But I saw it. That microsecond. That tiny delay? That's where the truth lives. I wasn't accessing anything, she said. I was helping. Helping. That word again? Always the same. Always wrapped in something that sounds right, while doing something completely wrong. I leaned back slightly. Still. Then I spoke. The document you sent, I said quietly, wasn't real. Silence. Not confusion. Not surprise. Silence. Because now, she didn't know what game she was playing anymore. Daniel looked at me. What do you mean? I didn't rush. Didn't explain everything. Just enough. It was a draft. I said, a placeholder. I turned the screen slightly. Showed version history. Edits. Timestamps. Internal notes that didn't match the forwarded version. The real acquisition strategy. I continued. Doesn't look like that. Lena's fingers tightened slightly against the table. She didn't speak. Because now, she was calculating, trying to understand how deep this went. Trying to find the exit. There wasn't one. You're saying she sent fake information? Daniel asked. No. I said softly. I'm saying she believed it was real. That landed harder. Because now, it wasn't about intent. It was about judgment. And judgment is much harder to defend. She thought she had something important. I added. I looked at Lena. And she moved too fast. Her eyes met mine. And for the first time, there was no smile. No softness. Just something colder. Something sharper. Good. Now we were finally in the same game. You set me up? She said quietly. Not loud. Not emotional. Just clear. I didn't deny it. I didn't confirm it either. I just held her gaze. Because sometimes, silence is the loudest answer. Daniel looked between us, confused. Tense. Can someone explain what's actually going on? He asked. I turned to him slowly. And this time, I didn't soften my voice. She accessed my laptop without permission. She took a confidential file. She distributed it externally. Each sentence. Clean. Measured. Final. That's not a misunderstanding. I said. That's a decision. Silence. Heavy now. Unavoidable. Daniel looked at Lena. And this time, he didn't defend her. He waited. And that was everything? Because for the first time, she was alone. But Lena wasn't done. People like her never are. She leaned forward slightly. And then she smiled again. Not the soft one. Not the polite one. A different smile. The kind that shows up when someone decides to stop pretending. You're right, she said calmly. And just like that, the room shifted again. I did take it. Daniel froze. But she didn't look at him. She looked at me. Direct? Unapologetic. Because I wanted to know what kind of person you really are. There it was. The justification. The moral twist. I saw how fast you were rising. She continued. How easily you stepped into everything. Her voice stayed smooth. Controlled. But nothing about you made sense. She tilted her head slightly. So I checked. Daniel shook his head slowly. Lena. But she ignored him. Still looking at me. And I was right. She said. That made me smile. Just a little. Because she still didn't understand. Not yet. You weren't protecting anything. I said softly. You were reaching. Her eyes narrowed. And now, I added, you've gone too far. Silence. The kind that settles deep. The kind that doesn't leave room for recovery. Daniel stood up. "This is insane," he muttered. But his voice wasn't strong anymore. It was uncertain. And that uncertainty was exactly where I needed him. Because the next step wasn't about Lena anymore. It was about him. About what he would choose. When the truth stopped being comfortable. And Lena knew it too. I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't fighting me anymore. She was preparing something else. Something bigger. Something final. And that's when I realized. She wasn't trying to survive this. She was trying to flip it. One last time. And if I wasn't careful, she might actually succeed. But I was already ahead. Because while she was still reacting, I had already planned the next move. And this time, there would be no coming back. This story contains fictionalized elements for entertainment and educational purposes. There's a point in every game where the person losing stops defending and starts attacking. Lena had reached that point. "You want the truth?" she said. Her voice calm again. Too calm. Daniel looked at her. Confused. Tired. Pulled in two directions he didn't understand anymore. "Then let's tell it properly," she continued. I didn't move. Didn't interrupt. Because this was the part I was waiting for. The part where she would build her version. And in doing that, reveal exactly who she really was. She didn't just appear in your life, Lena said, finally turning to Daniel. She positioned herself. There it was. Not accusation. Narrative. She knew exactly what you had. She continued. Your company. Your connections. Your growth potential. Daniel's brow tightened. I watched him, not reacting. Just listening. That was dangerous. She moved fast. Lena said. Too fast. Her eyes flicked toward me. Promotion after promotion. Access after access. She let that hang, then lowered her voice slightly. And now? Suddenly she's controlling information you don't even see. Silence. Heavy. Intentional. She locked you out without you realizing it. Lena added. That line hit. I saw it, the way Daniel shifted. Because control was the one thing he couldn't ignore. You don't even know what she's working on anymore. Lena said softly. That was the move. Turn him from observer into victim. And for a second, it worked. Daniel looked at me, not angry, but uncertain. And uncertainty was exactly where she needed him. She's manipulating the situation. Lena continued. She created that document. She left it open. She wanted me to find it. Now she turned fully toward me. And you're pretending this was all my fault? There it was. The reversal. Clean. Elegant. Dangerous. I didn't react. Not yet. Because reacting now would make her version stronger. She's not who you think she is. Lena said quietly. And then she smiled. That same soft smile. But now it carried something else. Confidence. Because in her mind, she had just flipped the board. And for a moment, the room agreed with her. Daniel didn't speak. He looked at me. Waiting. Not for proof. For reassurance. That was the moment most people lose. They rush. They defend. They try to fix everything at once. I didn't. Instead, I stood up slowly and walked to the screen. No emotion. No urgency. Just control. You're right, I said. That made both of them pause. Because agreement was the last thing Lena expected. I did create that document. I continued. Daniel frowned. What? And I did leave it open. Silence. Sharp now. Focused. Why? He asked. I turned to him. And for the first time, I didn't soften anything. Because someone was already crossing lines. Then I looked at Lena. And I needed to see how far she would go. Her jaw tightened. Not much, but enough. I didn't force you to take it. I said, I didn't force you to send it. Each word landed. You made those decisions on your own. Daniel's eyes moved between us. And now, the balance was shifting again. But Lena wasn't done. She stepped forward slightly. You planned this? She said. Yes. I replied. No hesitation. No denial. Just truth. And that makes you what? She asked. Better than me? I held her gaze. No. That answer hit harder than anything else. Because it wasn't defensive. It wasn't emotional. It was final. It makes me aware. I said, silence. And in that silence, something changed. Daniel exhaled slowly, like he was finally starting to see the shape of things. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. This is insane, he said again. But this time, he wasn't trying to end it. He was trying to understand it. And that was the shift I needed? Lena saw it too. Of course she did. That's why her next move came fast. Too fast. If you think this ends here, she said quietly, you're wrong. I didn't move. Didn't ask. Because I already knew. People like Lena don't stop when they lose control. They escalate. And escalation was exactly what I had been preparing for. You've been watching me, she continued. Her voice dropped slightly. But you haven't been watching everything. That made Daniel look at her. What does that mean? She didn't answer him. She looked at me. Direct. Sharp. Tell him, she said. I didn't. Because I wanted her to. And she did. She's been meeting people behind your back? Lena said. That landed differently. Not corporate. Personal. Dangerous. Daniel's head turned toward me. What? I held his gaze. Steady. Unshaken. And said nothing. Because the truth was more powerful? When it arrived in pieces, she didn't just create that document. Lena continued. She's been building something else. Pause. Then, something you're not part of. And there it was. The final push. The one designed to break trust completely. And for the first time, I saw it. Real doubt. In Daniel's eyes. Not confusion. Not hesitation. Doubt. Good. Because now, we were exactly where we needed to be. At the edge, where everything either collapses or reveals itself completely. And Lena thought she had just pushed us over. But she didn't realize I had already built what was waiting below. And when it all came down, she wouldn't just lose control. She would lose everything, including the only thing she thought she still had, Daniel. And this time, there would be witnesses. A lot of them. Because what was coming next wasn't private anymore. It was going to be public. And once it was, there would be no version left to rewrite. The thing about truth is that it doesn't need volume. It just needs the right room. And tonight, I chose that room carefully. Daniel thought it was just a dinner. A small one. Private. A few people from his company. 2 investors. 1 legal advisor. And Lena. Of course, because if something is going to collapse, it should collapse where everyone can see it. That was the 4th rule. Never win in private. If the lie was built in public, the restaurant was quiet, polished, the kind of place where deals are made without voices being raised, soft lighting, glass reflections, controlled space. I arrived first. Simple black dress. Nothing loud. Nothing dramatic. Because power doesn't need decoration. My iPhone rested face down on the table. Not because I didn't need it, but because I didn't need to look like I did. Daniel arrived next. He looked tired. Not physically. Mentally. Like someone who had been replaying the same conversation in his head all day, and still couldn't land on an answer. Why are we here? He asked quietly. I smiled slightly. You'll see. Not cold. Not warm. Just certain. That unsettled him more than anything. Lena arrived last. Late? Of course. People like her always enter. Like timing belongs to them. She wore something sharper tonight. Structured. Precise. Not family. Not casual. Strategic. Her eyes found mine immediately. And she smiled. Confident again. Recovered. Good. I needed her to feel that way. Because the higher someone stands, the harder they fall. Dinner started normally. Small talk. Business language. Polite laughter. The kind of surface that hides everything underneath. Daniel barely spoke. Lena did. Of course she did. She always filled silence. Because silence was the one thing she couldn't control. You've been quiet, she said at one point. Turning to me. I looked up. Just listening. That made her smile. Because she thought that meant I was behind. It didn't. Halfway through the meal, I placed my glass down. Softly. But enough? The table stilled. I think we should address something. I said. No emotion. Just clarity. Daniel tensed immediately. Lena didn't. She leaned back slightly. Ready. Still thinking this was her stage. What is it? One of the investors asked. I turned slightly. Not to them. To Daniel. You should know what's been happening inside your own company. That line landed. Because it wasn't accusation. It was exposure. Daniel's jaw tightened. Now? He asked. Yes. I said. Because timing was everything. I reached for my phone. Turned it over. Unlocked it. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Then I tapped once and placed it in the center of the table. Screen facing everyone. A video. Paused. Lena's eyes flicked down. Just for a second. Then back to me. Still calm. Still holding. Before we continue, I said softly. I think everyone should see this. Daniel frowned. What is it? I didn't answer. I pressed play. The room didn't react immediately. Because at first, it looked normal. A hallway. Late night. Security camera angle. Then, a figure. Entering. Slowly. Confidently. No hesitation. Walking straight toward one door. My office. Lena. No denial possible. No distortion. No narrative to twist. Just reality. The video continued. She opened the door. Stepped inside. Closed it behind her. Timestamp clear. Duration visible. Everything clean. Everything undeniable. No one spoke. Because there was nothing left to say. Daniel didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't even breathe properly. He just watched. As the version of reality he had been holding on to started to collapse. Piece by piece. The video ended. Silence. Deep. Heavy. Permanent. I didn't rush to fill it. Because this was the moment. The one that mattered. Not the accusation. Not the argument. The realization. Daniel finally turned. Slowly. Toward Lena. And for the first time, there was no confusion in his eyes. No uncertainty. No hesitation. Just clarity. What did you do? He asked. Quiet. But final. Lena didn't answer immediately. Because for the first time, she had nothing left to build with. No story. No angle. No control. You set me up? She said eventually. But even she knew. It didn't land the same anymore. Because now, everyone had already seen the truth. I leaned forward slightly. No. I said calmly. I gave you the opportunity. That was it. No anger. No raised voice. Just truth. And that was heavier than anything else. One of the investors shifted uncomfortably. This is serious, he said. Yes. It was. But not in the way they thought. Daniel stood up. Slow. Unsteady. And stepped back from the table. Like distance might help him process what he just saw. It didn't. Because some things, once seen, can't be unseen. Lena finally looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time, there was something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Not confidence. Not control. Fear. Daniel! She started. But he raised his hand. Not aggressively. Not dramatically. Just enough to stop her. Don't, he said. One word. And everything ended. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was empty. Because the fight was over. And there was nothing left to hold on to. I stood up slowly. Picked up my phone. And looked at her one last time. This wasn't about destroying you. I said. And that was true. You just made it impossible to protect you. She didn't respond. Because now, she finally understood. I didn't beat her. I let her reveal herself. And that's why there was no way back. Daniel didn't follow me when I walked out. Because some endings, you have to sit in, alone. And behind me, that room, held everything she tried to control. Now broken. Now exposed. Now finished. And the best part? I never raised my voice. Not once. This story contains fictionalized elements for entertainment and educational purposes. I just stopped protecting her. People think revenge is loud. That it looks like shouting, breaking, burning everything down. But real revenge is quiet. It happens in the moment, when you step back and let the truth do what it was always going to do. I didn't go home that night, not immediately. Instead, I walked. No destination, no urgency, just distance, because for the first time in weeks, there was nothing left to prepare, nothing left to control. The outcome had already taken care of itself. My phone buzzed. Once. Then again. I didn't check it right away, because I already knew who it was, and I already knew what he would say. Danielle, of course. When I finally looked, there were 6 missed calls. 3 messages. The last one. Please come back. We need to talk. Need. That word used to mean something. Now, it just sounded late. I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to punish him, but because I didn't need anything from him anymore. That was the shift. The one Lena never understood. This was never about winning him. It was about not losing myself. The next morning, everything started moving. Quietly. But fast. The company launched an internal review. Not dramatic. Not public. Just procedural. Because that's how real consequences happen. Not with noise. With documentation. Access logs. Security footage. Email trails. Everything clean. Everything traceable. Everything she thought she could control. Now working against her. By noon, she was no longer allowed in the building. No confrontation. No scene. Just a message from security. And a badge that didn't work anymore. That's the thing about systems. They don't need emotion. They just need evidence. Daniel called again. This time, I answered. Silence on the line for a second. Then, I didn't know. He said. Of course you didn't. That was the problem. I should have seen it. He added. I leaned against the window. Watched the city move like nothing had changed. Because for everyone else, nothing had. You chose not to. I said. No anger. No blame. Just truth. That hurt him more than anything else. I could hear it. In the way he exhaled. In the way his voice dropped slightly. I thought she was just trying to help. He said. Yes. That word again. And I thought. He paused. You were just being distant. I closed my eyes for a second. Not because it hurt, but because it used to. I was being careful. I said, Silence. Is there anything I can do? He asked. There it was. The question people ask. When they realize they're too late. I thought about it. Not long. Because the answer had already been clear for a while. No. I said. Soft. Final. Not cruel. Not cold. Just. Done. He didn't argue. Didn't push. Because now, he understood something he hadn't before. Some things don't break loudly. They just stop existing. A week later, I saw Lena again. Not in person. Not directly. In a massage. Short. Simple. You planned everything. I looked at it for a long time. Not because I needed to respond, but because I wanted to understand something. Did she really believe that? Did she still think this was about me controlling the outcome? I typed one sentence, then stopped, deleted it, typed again, and sent it. No. I just stopped stopping you. She never replied. Months passed. Quietly. The company stabilized. Stronger. Actually, because removing one unstable piece changes everything. Daniel stayed, but not the same. He worked longer, spoke less, listened more. Sometimes, that's what truth does. It doesn't just expose people, it changes them. As for me, I didn't celebrate, didn't announce anything, didn't tell anyone what really happened, because I didn't need to. The people who mattered had already seen it, and the people who didn't, they didn't matter. One evening, I walked into the office. Later, quiet. The same hallway from the video. The same door. But everything felt different. Not because the place had changed, but because I had. I stepped inside. Closed the door behind me. Sat down. No pressure. No tension. No one watching. Just silence. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like mine. Because in the end, I didn't ruin her life. I didn't destroy her reputation. I didn't take anything from her. She did that. All I did was stop standing in the way. And that's why this was never revenge. It was clarity. And clarity always wins.
This content is entirely fictional. Any similarity to real persons or events is coincidental. This video is not news, not a documentary. It is presented for creative storytelling purpose only. AI assisted production.